Happy Monday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Monday, December 4th, 2023. What do we have coming through in the cards for today? May I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is we like to see this card in this position, and we like to see this card in this position, particularly prior to the retrograde starting, because we've got here our 5 of Swords in its reversal. One of the nice things that we can remember about closure is that closure is something that we can create for ourselves at this time. Masculine and feminine energy that are going through in divine union or partnership. This is why we see that you are doing all this work, and it's almost coming through. I like this about this energy right now, because it almost feels like it's doing the work of the retrograde before the retrograde even has a chance to shine its head into the circumstances or situations. Because what we're effectively seeing is like masculine and feminine that are in divine union. They're almost like trying to do the assignment before the assignment's even been put through. It's almost happening on an energetic level. That's why we may be feeling that feeling of anxiety or preparation. I've been describing a lot of the feminine energy right now. If in divine union and partnership, I like to describe this as almost that feeling of like squirrel energy that's coming through, that need or that desire to move much quicker than you typically would. Masculine, this has been a little bit easier, but it is making the masculine approach things from a more conservative energy. I was seeing this almost like, again, it's almost like feeling like that preparation energy for winter. Masculine right now is almost more in that hobbit mode. It's more in that sense of like feeling that point of security, almost just trying to move into that conservative vibe, while feminine is almost ramping up the counterpoint to that energy, moving much quicker right now, as opposed to where we see that. But we see again that for the energy in divine union, this is why that energy is working so fluidly together, because it's filling the gaps where one is missing, the other one is filling in. That's allowing for that fluidity. We don't want the energies in the same modality. We want them to be acting complementary to one another. Now for masculine and feminine, I told you there's a lot of this heaviness that's coming to the surface. It's not the fact that there aren't situations or circumstances from the past that are rising to the surface right now, either metaphysically or very tangibly. It makes all the difference being in the divine union and partnership, because it's allowing for new approaches as it relates to how you are navigating those experiences. For masculine and feminine, one of the things that we see is for the divine partnership energy, the way that you are responding to things as they rise back up is effectively allowing for some points of closure on things that may have felt like they didn't have closure prior to this point. This is why we see on that an energetic or emotional or spiritual level right now, so much of this is rising to the surface. It's like creating that point of being able to like cut the foam off of the top to a certain extent, because masculine and feminine are effectively helping one another through that experience. What is occurring in that modality right now? Well, we see that the feminine energy, having that lesson from the masculine coming through, is able to move into that point of stoicism, having that deepened point of strength, almost allowing this to the feminine energy to be that moment of having that strength training exercise as it relates to their own bandwidth in terms of recognizing what is theirs to carry versus what they're effectively just pushing back on right now. Masculine, if in divine union right now, one of the things that's very beautiful is the fact that you yourself are allowing yourself into this modality. You are allowing yourself to feel the things that you're feeling. You're not closing them off. You're not shutting them down. You are learning that lesson from the feminine, because almost the feminine articulating to you, if you said something to them energetically or actually literally over the last few days about your own ability not to want to feel things for the sake of them allowing you to have that point of overwhelm. Feminine is almost giving you that supportive environment right now, if in divine union, saying you are in a space or place where it is okay for you to feel the full expression of your emotions. This is not something that is going to be used against you, but rather something that is going to be embraced and protected. For masculine right now, it is also allowing oneself to feel that, but also recognizing that feminine is teaching you the difference between feeling the expression of your emotions, but not allowing yourself to respond or react in that modality that is further feeling like this is a moment of closure for the masculine, because it is also helping the masculine build a point of closure around situations or circumstances that may have effectively felt very triggering in the past. Now, masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union and partnership right now, what we are effectively seeing is this modality or this moment that we are recognizing that for the energy coming into divine union right now, this is that sense of closure that is occurring due to the divine union forming. It's almost like this point right now that anything that feels open-ended around the energy coming into divine union right now, the divine union is the point of closure. It is creating that aspect because the divine union, much like we see for the energy that's already in divine union, is feeling that sense of completion of cycles, and even that sense of potentially feeling like there are things that are okay leaving open-ended to a certain extent, because it's like their importance or their significance has effectively faded to a certain degree. That is how we see that the energy is building that sense of closure. Masculine and feminine that are in separation at this time, one of the things that we see is recognizing that for the energy that is in separation at this moment, what we are effectively identifying is for feminine that is in separation, this is feminine energy moving into that modality of building that sense of closure for themselves at this moment. Because what we see for the energy of feminine that is in separation right now, this is almost a moment of the feminine not wanting to be calling themselves or recognizing even that description of the word separation doesn't even feel accurate to the feminine right now, because we see that this is the feminine that is moving forward right now, committing themselves to the desire of being in that divine union frequency. It's that moment or that modality that we're almost seeing is allowing for the feminine energy at this moment to build this sense of closure around themselves at this time. It is the feminine recognizing that any situations or circumstances that aren't giving them a sense of closure are particularly or potentially doing so for a very intentional reason. And that is almost that moment that the feminine is identifying that anything that isn't giving them closure, feminine has the ability to create that sense of closure for themselves. And feminine is teaching themselves through a lot of this energetic or spiritual cord cutting that we see that the feminine is doing at this time, giving themselves over to that work, spending a lot of time right now, not even necessarily looking forward into new possibilities or opportunities with masculine, but almost building that sense of closure as they do so. It's like the actions that they're taking now are creating that closure point. Masculine energy that is in separation right now, what we are effectively seeing is this is a moment that we are identifying and recognizing that you yourself are also creating that sense of closure. Now, one of the things that we see that is very different right now for the masculine energy in separation is something very important has been happening over the last few days for the masculine energy that has been feeling more like that internal journeying, that question coming forward, asking oneself, what is your driving purpose? What is it that you truly desire at this time? And it is that motivating factor that we now see that you are taking that care and attention to, setting one's intention. And this is either going to feel like a process of you going back to circumstances and situations from the past to get that point of closure, potentially moving forward to things, again, for the sake of discovering if there are possibilities, or even for the sake of closure. One of the things that I mentioned that is very important right now for the masculine energy's journey in separation is this isn't necessarily even something that you are doing with the aspiration or hope that something might move in a positive direction. It is more about being able to have that karmic clearing, building that sense of closure for yourself. And we see that masculine is also doing a lot of this work right now. This is either going to relate to addressing anything that feels open-ended from the past, returning to situations now with a deepened sense of conviction and understanding of what you may actually desire and aspire from them. Or this is a moment of masculine, allowing this to be a sense of building closure for themselves at this moment as you proceed forward on your journey, allowing that sense of closure to fortify and build it within yourself so that you can move yourself open into new possibilities and experiences. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is We have here our star in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are moving in divine union and partnership at this moment. A lot of this work that we're effectively seeing is happening today is going to feel like a lot of the masculine energy having to come in and effectively support the feminine. Potentially masculine, you are seeing one of the things that we've been seeing that has been occurring right now as it relates to the energy that is in divine union. And it's interesting because we saw that the feminine was in more of that defensive energy over the last few days. Masculine is almost reflecting now the same space or place that feminine was just a few days ago, because this is a masculine that is observing or seeing feminine to a certain degree, having those points of vulnerability, feeling that sense of vulnerability, almost embodying and recognizing the feminine and almost seeing them at a point of vulnerability. Again, masculine adjusting or acclimating their own choices, their own way of addressing things because of the power of the divine union. It's almost, again, and this is the same energy that we see right now for the energy coming into the divine union frequency right now. This is masculine looking at things from a different optics. It's changing the way that you are addressing things right now due to that point of recognizing that there's other energy at stake or other energy at play around this. This could be feeling right now like masculine is working right now in a place or space of being very protective of their feminine energy, especially if in divine union right now. And masculine almost going back to situations or circumstances right now in that role of protection, if you will, letting that almost be, again, a moment of addressing things in a different way or building a sense of closure around circumstances or situations. For feminine right now, in divine union and partnership, this is going to be a bit of a difficult day we're potentially seeing, because for the feminine right now, this is the feminine energy coming into that modality. We see that feminine has been unpacking things to a certain extent over the last few days. And this is almost the feminine, again, starting to feel some of that anxiety point in terms of their own triggers being hit in one way or another. Feminine, again, effectively almost going into the space that we've been recognizing over the last few days that's a bit easier for the masculine, because the feminine has been trying to amplify to the masculine that while the masculine may be encouraging feminine to be their most vulnerable, their most expressive version of themselves, feminine almost is amplifying to the masculine right now that doing so is almost immediately triggering, because it's almost bringing out that part of feminine that feels like it isn't necessarily safe to do so or to be in that modality or in that vibration. For the feminine right now, this could be a lot of expression if in divine union as to the feminine explaining to masculine energy why they are in this modality, what creates this sense or space of them not feeling like they can be their most authentic expression of self. This is going to feel like, again, much like I said, that dark night of the soul energy coming through right now. This is almost feminine having to confront a lot of these internal hurdles within the self right now, but all for the sake of building that point of closure. Now, masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union right now, this is pretty much the same exact thing that we see is happening for the energy that's already in the divine union frequency. Because what we are effectively identifying at this time is, again, what happened over the last few days. We recognized an experience or situation wherein masculine wanted to move forward to feminine very quickly. Feminine didn't necessarily embrace the masculine coming towards them in this way, but almost stepped back, almost from that point of caution, almost feeling that moment of anxiety or doubt in terms of being able to trust that the masculine energy was going to be able to stay in that frequency, due to the fact that the shift that they may have seen or experienced on the part of the masculine felt so abrupt that feminine didn't know if they could fully trust it, because there was a point of anxiety about feminine feeling like the anxiety of masculine dipping back out of this frequency as quickly as they popped into it. For the feminine, one of the things that we almost identified was seeing that point of recognition. If the feminine slowed down, and this was almost the point of feminine actually realizing and feeling that full point of like surrender or experience to this, if this was a masculine that almost immediately was able to identify to the feminine, recognizing that that point of the feminine pulling back was not necessarily something about the feminine trying to have some kind of egoic hit to the masculine, but instead was one that was coming from trying to protect themselves. This is potentially masculine energy that almost immediately match the vibration of the feminine, almost to the point of articulating and saying, you don't even need to explain to me what your trepidation is. I almost understand it. I can feel it. I feel connected to you. I feel emotionally like I have that point of bound, like we have that emotional connection, the divine union effectively forming. For the feminine in this modality right now, again, this is that moment of potentially trying to articulate and to the masculine why you feel this trepidation. There could be a lot of unpacking right now to the feminine, almost towards a masculine, if moving into divine union right now, almost trying to articulate and express where those anxieties are, what those things are. But we see here that the feminine is almost intentionally doing this unpacking right now, not from a sake or space of complaining, but almost trying to amplify and articulate to the masculine to say, again, almost building that connective tissue, trying to say, can you help me with this? I'm expressing these things to you so that we can navigate them together. Feminine, masculine that's in this modality right now of, again, coming into that divine union frequency, there is that feeling that is potentially coming through, much like the energy that's already in divine union, of that feeling of protectiveness, of that feeling of wanting to protect the feminine. And again, if this is a feminine energy that is expressing to the masculine their own reasons, their own sources, why the feminine energy effectively has moved or is in that space or place of being so cautious. Masculine in this modality right now, a lot of this is almost, again, this point of recognition, this commitment to oneself in building a sense of closure, wanting to effectively close out any cycles that create a space or place of a feminine not feeling like they can be their most authentic, vulnerable expression of self around you. And this is either a personal commitment that masculine is making to themselves at this moment as they move into divine union, changing and amending your own behavior, or getting very protective around an energy of a feminine that is expressing to you the past or the reasons why you are finding them in this frequency. Masculine and feminine that are in separation right now. For the feminine and masculine, the feminine energy in separation right now, this is going to feel like a lot of heavy work that's happening today. And I want the feminine energy, if in separation right now, to give yourself a lot of care. Take a lot of care of yourself today, feminine, because what we are effectively seeing is, again, a moment that can feel very triggering to the feminine today. Why is the feminine feeling triggered? Because feminine energy is confronting a lot of situations and circumstances from the past, either metaphysically right now or practically, to build a sense of closure, because the things that feel open-ended make them feel like they cannot move forward in a space of feeling like they can be their most vulnerable, authentic expression of self. This is feminine energy almost immediately casting their eye backwards to be able to address those circumstances and situations that have them in this modality. This is feminine almost like forcing themselves into that space or place of building that sense of closure. Masculine in separation right now, this is going to potentially feel very difficult too, because you are doing a lot of that same work right now. If in separation, the problem around this right now for masculine is potentially, if in separation right now, this has to do with some point of clarity as it relates to how you want to approach feminine going forward right now. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine right now, again, there is this point of recognition. There is this point of understanding. There is this point of clarification right now in understanding and recognizing why a feminine energy may feel this level or degree of wanting to keep you at a distance here. This could even be a masculine energy right now. You are casting your own eye back to situations and circumstances with a better sense of recognition and understanding of the self that may have caused or created that aspect of the feminine not feeling like they could be fully open and honest and vulnerable to you to a certain extent. Masculine, you have been moving right now in that sense of deepening your own conviction as it relates to how you want to move right now, with that source question coming to the surface of asking oneself, not just from yourself right now, but from a lot of energy around you, almost asking this question: What is it that you truly seek? And we see now that, again, for a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, this is either expressing about wanting that point of commitment, of going back to past situations and circumstances to be able to mollify or ease a point of feeling like there is a feminine connection that you don't feel like you are in a proper placement with, or something that you want to kind of build that point of closure on. And we see here that, again, this is almost that point for the masculine of either going back to situations or circumstances to build that sense of closure, or doing so internally, doing so on a metaphysical level to help overcome any of these obstacles as it relates to going forward right now. We see the reason that you're doing this right now, masculine, is due to the fact that you now see this aspect of yourself, that, again, you see the ability to adjust and to shift this within. The bigger question for the masculine right now in separation is really based on whether you're taking this energy to a past energy to be able to build that point of clarification, or if you're using this as a point of closure for yourself going forward, allowing that point of understanding to help propel you forward with a commitment in terms of how you're going to change and adjust your energy as you proceed forward to be able to avoid those same pitfalls or difficulties. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here, and we love to see this card right now, we've got our 3 of Pentacles coming to the surface. So a lot of feelings right now of strengthening commitments, strengthening convictions, masculine and feminine right now in divine union and partnership. This is going to feel a lot like the strength of the partnership itself is helping you navigate any of these hurdles, any of these difficulties. It's almost, in a way, one of the things that's really valuable and important right now that's potentially happening for the energy moving into divine union and partnership right now, or already in that divine union and partnership frequency, is especially anything that's happening right now with the feminine, anything that we're seeing here that is requiring the feminine to move in this vibration of, again, having to address circumstances and situations that are not making them feel as confident, be them internal, some of past traumas rising to the surface right now that they need the assistance of the masculine to help them navigate, or tangible situations and circumstances rising up around the feminine that is making them feel more in that mode or modality of feeling like they need to effectively, move into that more protective energy. This is a masculine that is effectively, again, almost feeling even more that sense of wanting to create a space that feels safe for the feminine. It's firming up the commitment. It's firming up the partnership. And for feminine right now, it is almost, again, feeling the partnership itself is that stabilizing force. It is that shelter from the storm, if you will, but the storm that the feminine is effectively experiencing and expressing right now is potentially within the feminine energy's own mindset. It's allowing for that point of closure. It is feeling that security right now in what you are creating in the partnership itself that is helping the feminine navigate any of these feelings of issues around their own sense of self, or feeling like they can be their most authentic expression of self. Masculine that is in divine union and partnership right now, this is effectively, again, you kind of moving in that vibration, much like we saw. You're now reflecting the way the feminine was reflecting. Just a couple days ago, we saw feminine working in a way to be very defensive and protective for the masculine. Masculine is now stepping in to occupy the same exact role that feminine was in just a couple days ago. This is masculine almost coming through right now, really trying to firm up, really trying to build that supportive architecture, really trying to help the feminine to a certain extent in their own feelings of uncertainty or vulnerability at this time, but also navigating their own situations at the same time. This is something that feels like it is unifying the energy. It is that mutual sense of the past rising back to the surface, either metaphysically right now or tangibly. Masculine wanting to almost like work to shelter and protect the feminine in this modality. Feminine feeling that supportive architecture of the partnership itself that masculine is, that they're creating with masculine, that is further helping them through any of these hurdles or difficulties. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union. This is the feeling of the partnership itself, the divine union forming right now that is building that sense of, again, realigned or readjusted commitments. And this is that moment that, again, for masculine right now, it's almost this feeling of, again, it almost is going to feel like you're shedding a lot of things. For masculine, it's going to feel almost like, again, a lot of things that may have felt more important to you prior to this moment, they're just kind of dropping to the wayside because, again, your commitment, your intention is focused very much on what you are creating with the feminine. Feminine, you are effectively also experiencing this right now. You are effectively also in that modality right now where, again, your own priorities are shifting. And for the feminine, one of the things we see is this is still a feminine that is moving into divine union right now very trepidatiously. This is a feminine taking baby steps into this right now because the feminine energy is trying to ascertain and make sure that this is real. It's trying to make sure that the feminine feels like this is something that is actually supportive because feminine is having the anxiety of past experiences that is holding them back in terms of that feeling of commitment right now. And this is why we see that even for a lot of the energy right now of feminine that may be feeling and seeing of divine union taking shape around them at this time, it may not necessarily even feel like a positive moment, but one that is effectively making you feel anxious or frightened because it's almost the feminine seeing that supportive architecture being formed and starting to feel the anxiety that it may be taken away from them again. Now, masculine and feminine in separation at this time, what we are effectively recognizing and identifying is this is feminine energy that is building that sense of closure away from any circumstances or situations that feel like they're open-ended. This is feminine really focusing right now on how is the feminine energy in separation, navigating situations and circumstances that feel like they are triggering to the feminine, that feel like they are leaving them feeling open and vulnerable. Feminine energy is putting and casting their mind on the practical. Feminine is looking at situations and circumstances, and again, they're letting go of any commitments that feel like they are ephemeral, that feel like they're almost at points and spaces that don't necessarily occupy tangible reality at this time. This is almost feminine energy, again, focusing on grounding their energy right now, if in separation, focusing on those points of what feels tangible. If this is a feminine energy that's holding on to some kind of ephemeral idea of the past, this is feminine energy that is effectively helping to build that sense of closure in terms of identifying to the feminine that there's something here that they don't even feel that they can tangibly hold on to, so much as recognizing that it's just a feeling. And feminine is almost saying to themselves, I can release something that is connected to me if it's just a feeling by focusing on what is actually present, what feels like it is real. Utilizing that right now is what is helping the feminine continue forward in this capacity, focusing on manifesting something that actually feels like it holds tangible weight in their experience. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is that moment that we are effectively seeing that, again, you are also very much kind of moving in the same vibration of feminine right now. You are also going through a lot of this heavy dark night of the soul energy potentially if you are in separation right now. But one of the things that we're effectively identifying for the masculine in this modality right now is masculine trying to move with a lot of intentionality. This is masculine energy that is either, again, moving forwards or backwards with that sense of conviction, with that sense of purpose. This is a masculine energy now that has, over the last few days, if in separation, really focused on what it is that they're truly after, what it is that they truly want to manifest for themselves going forward at this time. And what we are effectively identifying and recognizing right now for masculine energy in separation, that commitment, that level of determination is either driving you back to past situations and circumstances to see if there is some type of possibility of new beginnings, new foundations, given what you have learned thus far, or if this is a moment that you are potentially recognizing that you are, again, taking those lessons from the past. And I will say that something about these lessons may feel like they were very hard lessons to be learned because they feel like they were potentially at the cost of losing some feminine energy that you may feel like you may have wanted to desire to move towards at this time. But recognizing that point of understanding, that point of clarification that you have created for yourself at this moment is exactly what's amplifying to you what is going to allow you to move forward with a lot of that conviction as you proceed forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fourth card in our 5-card spread is we have here our Chariot energy. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are moving in divine union and partnership. This is going to, again, it's like moving away from that point of heaviness is effectively what is giving you that point of optics right now as it relates to how you're moving forward. Masculine and feminine energy right now are almost like amplifying to each other if in divine union and partnership, that anything that's potentially rising up to the surface as it relates to metaphysical experiences from the past or tangible experiences from the past that need to be addressed. It is all about that forward movement. It is utilizing this perception shift in terms of not the fact that these things are rising back up right now, but the direction that you're already moving in. We see that for the energy in divine union and partnership, this is almost allowing that sense, what you've created for yourself. This is why we see that this is almost like this energy of preparation right now. It's almost allowing a level of not needing to focus on what to do about it so much, because in a way it's almost recognizing that it isn't about what to do about circumstances or situations so much as it feels like it's just more about staying on the path. It's about staying on the path that you've been creating for yourselves right now. It's reminding yourself of that path. It's fortifying that path forward. In a way, that is what is helping amplify how to address any of these experiences that are currently rising to the surface right now. Now, for feminine energy in this modality right now, this is what is amplifying and allowing you through these moments right now. It is focusing on the stability points. It is focusing on that path ahead. It is recognizing and seeing those points that are building that sense of understanding and clarity as to what it is that you're driving towards right now. Feminine energy is maintaining that focus in divine union, in divine partnership. And that is what is helping the feminine through any of these hurdles or adversities that are potentially rising up right now that are building that sense of vulnerability to them at this moment. Masculine, seeing feminine energy in this modality right now, you are also amplifying to the feminine that this is the work that you are doing together right now. And again, one of the things that is important and valuable here is that sense of, again, the partnership itself, the union itself, building that sense of strength that is forcing and encouraging both energies away from anything from the past that is potentially rising up and creating that sense of vulnerability. For feminine, this is going to feel like a lot more hard work today. It's going to feel a lot more triggering. But we see here that, again, in a way, it isn't the fact that you're feeling triggered right now. It is feeling, again, the power of the supportive system around you at this time that is framing a lot of that differentiation point. While for masculine right now, again, it is that sense of protection. It is that protective energy that you're effectively feeling towards the energy of partnership at this time, preserving and creating a space that the feminine energy feels like they can be their most vulnerable, authentic expression of self right now that is further encouraging you forward in this way. Masculine and feminine right now that are coming into divine union and partnership, this is the energy of the divine union starting to take off. This is that feeling of the priorities shifting, having this be a point of adjustment, having this even be potentially a moment today that is building about like masculine. We're almost seeing here that the solution of the masculine in seeing a feminine that you recognize and identify right now is feeling those points of anxiety, is feeling those points of uncertainty. We see masculine, you're almost understanding that the more you're able to make something tangible right now, the more you're going to be able to build that sense of confidence to the feminine that this is something that is truly in play, that this is something that is truly happening at this time. For feminine that's in this modality right now, again, if you're moving into the divine union frequency, you are also recognizing that it's not a state or space where you have to hide your own doubts and fears. But again, it is that feeling of relief that expressing your doubts and fears isn't creating a point of conflict. It's almost immediately being addressed and taken care of by the complementary energy. Almost again, the masculine saying to the feminine to some extent right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is almost a masculine moving into that sense of saying to the feminine, show me where you've got the anxiety point. Show me where that crack is. Show me where that point of uncertainty is, so that I can fill that, so that I can pour gold into that space or place that needs that kind of attention. And for the feminine right now, that is almost amplifying that this is moving into the divine union frequency, because again, that source of anxiety, that source of vulnerability isn't creating a conflict point. It's immediately being addressed. It's immediately being like, that's a masculine, much like we said. What did we say was happening for the energy in divine union right now? Show me where you're vulnerable, so that I can protect that even more. That I can protect that even more. And coming through that moment right now, we're effectively seeing is that point of recognizing right now that feminine is almost seeing that in action, and it is amplifying to the feminine that is the direction that they're effectively moving towards right now as it relates to divine union. Now, masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this is going to feel like feminine moving into a lot of energy of conviction. This is feminine energy that, again, is overcoming their own anxieties as it relates to their sense of self right now. It is not the fact, if you are a feminine energy in separation right now, that things are easy. There are situations and circumstances right now that feel very triggering to the feminine. Feminine is actively working right now on building that sense of closure. What is feminine in separation building that sense of closure on? Situations and circumstances wherein they feel like they could not be their most vulnerable version of self. And one of the things that the feminine might be doing for themselves at this time is recalling and remembering situations and circumstances where they potentially expressed a need to the masculine. And instead of that need being addressed and immediately worked to corrected for, it becoming a source of deepening lack of ability to be vulnerable. Feminine's almost reminding themselves, this is how the closure point's happening right now for a lot of the feminine in separation, is this point of recognizing that in those moments that they're moving away from, when they express their doubt, when they express their fear, it wasn't something that the masculine energy that they're moving away from immediately tried to mollify or address, but instead utilized as a point to make the feminine feel even more disempowered, feel even more weaker. It's almost like the feminine showing again a vulnerability to the masculine, and instead of the masculine working to protect that, almost trying to amplify, almost utilizing that as the point wherein to like stick their have that point of injury. Feminine is recognizing that to a certain extent right now, and that's that moment that we see that the feminine is almost further building that sense of conviction. This is, again, feminine learning to do this process right now of stoicism, recognizing the difference between what they may have desired or aspired to be the truth versus the hard reality of circumstances or situations. This is feminine building closure right now in separation by reminding themselves to a certain extent about the fact that they see here that the reason that they're moving away from something isn't due to a lack of care, but more for the sense of feminine recognizing what they aspired would occur in situations versus the hard reality of the facts of what did. Masculine energy in separation right now. For that, if you are going through this is again a moment for masculine that is feeling like you are building that sense of deepening understanding of the self. You are working in this moment right now of, again, one of the things that we've been seeing over the last few days is building that sense of conviction for yourself, recognizing these points of accommodation and change that you want to make in your own behavior going forward. And a lot of that has been articulated upon, potentially not just from the feminine energy around you right now, but from a lot of positive karmic energy that is trying to show you your own blind spots, show you your own tendencies, to help you recognize and identify how you may be being misunderstood on the part of the feminine. That deeper question rising to the surface over the last few days around the masculine energy, effectively asking, what is it that you truly seek at this time? And we recognize and we see that for a lot of the masculine energy going through this modality right now, this is a moment of fortifying one's own sense of commitment. And it is either going forwards or backwards. It is either that moment right now for masculine of, again, going back to situations and circumstances, understanding now what you need to bring to them to correct them, understanding why the feminine energy may have closed off to you to a certain extent, seeing your own sense of accountability and recognizing and allowing oneself the ability to have that point of closure, to build that point of understanding, even for the sense and for the sake of at least creating closure around those situations so that you can move forward from this time. Or we see that this is masculine energy coming into a point of personal understanding on why some energy is closed off, potentially feeling that need or desire of, again, building a sense of internal closure that is going to be amplified to allow you to move forward as you move with a deepened sense of conviction on what it is that you truly seek going forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now. Fifth card in our 5-card spread, it's coming through transverse. Oh boy, we've got here our Hermit card in its transverse. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union and partnership right now, one of the hurdles that we're potentially seeing that's happening right now has to do with planning. It has to do with, again, experiencing and recognizing. And it's interesting too, because there is something that is coming to the surface right now for the energy, even if in divine union and partnership right now, that is really articulating and amplifying right now about that need, going through some of this internal journey, feeling like there is something here that needs some point of clarity, that needs some point of optics. And for masculine and feminine, this is feeling like a little bit of a limbo phase. It could be feeling right now for masculine and feminine, even if in divine union and partnership, one of the problems or the hurdles that you're potentially experiencing is feeling like you don't necessarily have the full optics or the full clarity on situations or circumstances. This is almost identifying and recognizing some situations and circumstances that feel like you want to get some point of deeper understanding on. Masculine and feminine in this modality right now, this is almost that point of clarity. Remember what I said was coming through for the energy in divine union and partnership that was almost resulting in being like, is it really something that we need to worry about, or is it something that we just need to leave behind? We're almost seeing here that a lot of the conversation right now in masculine and feminine energy that's in divine union and partnership is effectively, again, sealing up the cracks, finding any ability right now to fortify and shore up what you're trying to build between yourselves right now that feels strong, positive, and stable. And it does require a little bit of, again, it's like, this is like giving almost that energy of someone like double checking their work, looking back on things, addressing things that need to be addressed. We are seeing here that this is what I'm saying about the fact of this like retrograde energy almost coming through a little early, but we're seeing here the benefit, the positive that comes through for the energy right now in divine union and partnership is, again, this is almost getting ahead. It's like getting ahead of the retrograde energy. It's almost like looking at things right now and making sure that you've dotted all your I's, that you've crossed all your T's. It's navigating some situations right now with a very fine-toothed comb. It's creating that sense of almost like deeper inquiry, going into the heart of things to make sure that what you are building for yourself right now feels like it is as clear and as fortified as you possibly can. This is almost masculine and feminine building that support system for themselves right now, if in divine union. It's almost masculine and feminine saying to themselves at this time, it's not that we can accommodate and account for every unforeseen circumstance. The best we can do is effectively just make sure that we're navigating as many of them as we possibly can as we proceed forward from this point. And there's a lot of that care and attention. I'm going to say this is almost feeling right now like almost doting on each other, almost really trying to be there in as much and as almost like, I want to say this is coming through almost like a fastidious type of energy right now, almost being as fastidious as possible right now, if in divine union and partnership. And in a way, that is how you're navigating any of these situations and circumstances from the past that feel like they're creating that sense or that degree of anxiety. Feminine is doing that again to navigate their own feelings of anxiety, and it will kind of interpret today more as a sense of anxiety for feminines. So make sure that you're grounding a lot right now for feminine energy, even if you're in partnership at this moment. For masculine, this is almost coming through right now in masculine, addressing and seeing spaces and places where they're identifying that the feminine energy around them is feeling some point of anxiety, and almost going very deeply, like drilling down to try to figure out what exactly that is that may be creating that sense or that space of anxiety for the feminine. Masculine and feminine right now that are trying to come into divine union, that are trying to come into divine partnership, we see that this is the energy that is effectively occurring right now, that is happening as it relates to the divine union that is forming. Now, one of the things that we're seeing is that this is almost like the opposite. It's not going to feel so much fastidious. It's going to feel like a lot of things are just getting dropped, because the point of fastidiousness is the creation of the divine union. You're getting much more cultivating on your attention, but that attention is being focused right now on the formation of the divine union frequency, which is why we see that there's a lot of energy here that may be feeling like it is getting shed right now for the masculine and feminine that's moving into divine union right now, bearing in mind that this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, specifically because we are recognizing and identifying at this time that this is energy that is effectively moving their attention and their care and their consideration into the partnership. This is doing everything they can right now to work through this. And I told you that for the masculine energy right now, much like we saw with the energy that's in divine partnership already, we are seeing that here the fastidiousness is again masculine recognizing, just like we saw, spaces of feminine articulating their doubts, their anxieties, their fears, that point of trepidation that feminine is having right now, wanting to move into divine union, but being afraid about what could potentially happen at this time. And what we are effectively identifying at this moment is this point of recognition that we are effectively seeing at this moment of, again, feminine is not necessarily feeling like they need to not express this. This is almost feminine trying to express it to the masculine in a way that the masculine understands. Feminine's almost trying to say the fastidiousness that is happening right now for the energy coming into divine union has to almost do with feminine energy trying to amplify and articulate to masculine, saying, I am not expressing these things because it isn't something that I don't want. I am expressing these things because this is something that I want so much that I want to be careful that I'm not overly investing myself in something that isn't real. This is almost the feminine energy literally trying to exactly be as specific as possible to a masculine energy right now, almost trying to say to the masculine, I want to stress, I don't want you to misunderstand me. I don't want you to misunderstand my motivations or intentions in expressing these things to you. Masculine, you may be seeing and experiencing this right now on the part of a feminine if you're moving into divine union. It's almost the feminine trying to be as specific as possible as to why you are finding them in this modality of, again, desiring something more than anything that they desire, but also because of that, moving with such a level and degree of care, of anxiety, of concern. That point of trepidation is almost like what the feminine is trying to articulate to you at this time. One of the things that we're effectively seeing at this moment is almost this point that we are identifying and recognizing that for the masculine energy that is in this modality, that is going through these points, this is a moment of masculine almost recognizing and seeing that this is the case. This is masculine energy almost again saying to the feminine, please, like this isn't a masculine we're seeing here, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This isn't a masculine saying like, stop with what you're telling me, or a masculine energy saying like, please don't. This is masculine going, can you please be more specific? Can you please articulate on that more? Can you please tell me more about this? This is almost a masculine energy that, again, is taking that same level of fastidiousness that we're seeing in the energy of divine union and partnership, almost again saying, can you be a little bit more specific? I want to make sure, because this is a masculine energy that's almost saying to the feminine, I don't want you not to tell me what your doubts and fears are. I want you to articulate on them so that I can show you that I am going to do everything I can to amend for them. I am going to, again, I want you to show me where those cracks are so that I can pour gold on them. I want you to show me where the cracks in our foundation is so that I can put extra attention there, so that I can put extra work in those spaces and places. This is literally the masculine saying, show me where you are, again, much like the energy we saw coming into partnership. Not a space or place of saying, show me where you're vulnerable so I can hit you there as hard as I can. It's masculine almost saying, please show me where you're vulnerable so that I can show you that this is moving into the divine union and vibration, that I am fixing these things, that these are the spaces and places that I am working to heal with you. And masculine and feminine are doing this now, again, for each other, which is why this is moving into the divine union frequency. Now, masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this is feminine energy going through this process in separation. This is exactly the manifestation. This is how the feminine energy is building closure for themselves right now as they proceed forward from this point. Because this is feminine affirming to themselves the difference between what they aspired to happen in situations and circumstances versus what actually occurred. The feminine energy is having that moment of the past rising to the surface right now, but it is almost amplifying to the feminine. It is a point of readdressing. It is the feminine almost going through that checklist within their own self right now and saying, there was a moment where I was very vulnerable to someone. There was a moment that I created a space or place of vulnerability. Did someone take that vulnerability and utilize it to protect it at all costs? Or did someone take that moment of vulnerability and use it to effectively try to hurt me more? This is the feminine almost again. This is how the feminine energy is closing a lot of these past karmic cycles right now by reminding themselves even at that moment of saying, I potentially, again, what was the message of the feminine right now that's moving forward right now? Recognizing that act of stoicism. What is the feminine saying in an act of stoicism? My heart may call me to something right now that I know isn't in my best interest. And feminine is reaffirming that by looking at those circumstances and situations right now and reminding themselves about how vulnerable they were, how they allowed themselves to be vulnerable, and how that wasn't a safe space for them to be. Because how did a lot of this energy of feminine, especially if this is energy that just recently went back into separation, come to this point? This was feminine energy at a point of crisis, trying to build that connective tissue with the masculine, and instead of the masculine being there when the feminine needed them to, effectively left them hanging. Effectively left them in a state or space where they didn't have that level of degree of care, of fastidiousness, of support. This is feminine going through that retrograde energy, having it come back and reaffirming to themselves and saying, this is what should have happened. This is what that energy should have done instead of what they did at a point of vulnerability. This is feminine, again, immediately suturing up, healing that wound for themselves by reaffirming that they're moving in that healing space and place, because again, that space or place that they're moving away from was not one where they could be their most vulnerable, open for self. Masculine, if in separation right now, what we are effectively identifying and recognizing right now is this point of optics as it relates to your own sense of self right now. There is a point of observation right now for masculine that is requiring a lot of internal journeying at this time. For the masculine going through this modality right now, this is that point of understanding in one's own self. You are seeing yourself right now from some outside optics that may be somewhat difficult to navigate or to bear. But what we're really identifying at this point is it is that giving you that sense of insight. It's giving you that sense of clarity. It's building that sense of conviction to yourself of, again, recognizing or looking at situations and circumstances, seeing how you may have been misunderstood, misperceived, how your actions may have been misinterpreted. And again, this is either something that you are utilizing to take forward with you at this time, to go back to situations and circumstances, to shed that light that you know needs to be brought forth in those places or spaces, now with that sense of conviction and understanding. Or you are taking this right now and carrying it forward. You are carrying it towards the new opportunities and experiences as you proceed forward from this point. Continuing to get clarity right now on these cards between our Five of Swords in its reversal in combination with our Star in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Again, Two of Cups in its reversal. Masculine and feminine that are in divine union or divine partnership right now, this is that moment that we are effectively seeing in relation to what you are navigating and the difference between situations and circumstances from the past versus where you find yourself at this moment. As I mentioned, all the difference is coming through right now in the difference in being divine, in divine union versus not. And some of the things that we're effectively seeing right now that are causing some of these triggers right now for the energy that is in divine union and partnership is showing the amplification point in terms of how you are navigating difficult circumstances and situations, specifically in relation to the difference on where you find yourself now versus where you found yourself then. Feminine, this could be a lot of assessing, even if you are in divine union and partnership right now, a lot of things that may have been experienced within your own self right now, that internal unpacking in situations and circumstances wherein you weren't even in the divine union. A lot of this is, like I said, a lot of the work right now of the divine union is allowing for some of this deeper work to come up to the surface right now. The partnership itself is allowing a vulnerability point that is bringing some of this up metaphysically or tangibly for the feminine right now. And it is that point, it is that counterpoint right now in recognizing and adjusting of having those points. And I will stress, it's very important at this time, even if you are in divine union and partnership, to observe and recognize that this is not something that starts to affect or negatively impact the divine union itself. There's a point of observation. And again, it may feel a little bit like, for some of the energy in divine union right now, like the bonds of the partnership feel like they're being tested. Because they are. What did I just say is happening right now? There's a point of fastidiousness, of seeing and recognizing where the cracks might form, where there are those points that need that point of adjustment. This is why we have these retrograde periods. It's almost like testing right now. Situations around the partnership itself are testing the partnership's points. The points that need that point of observation. And the important thing right now, even for the energy that is in divine union and partnership, is utilizing that as a point of recognizing where the work begins instead of allowing some of those cracks to form, right? This is going to feel a lot like that work, and making sure right now, I need to stress, even if you're in divine union and partnership, utilizing that as a point of empathy, of care, is going to be very important, because there is this moment that we see here that something about these situations and circumstances could feel very triggering, and triggering in relationship to partnership. Masculine and feminine, and we're seeing here, especially for the feminine, this could even be a moment right now of feeling some anxiety about the strength of the partnership itself. This is feminine energy navigating that sense, and we're seeing here, this is almost a feminine energy that again feels some point of anxiety, wants to be able to, they feel like they can stand on their own 2 feet to a certain extent. And we're almost seeing here that there's a moment right now that potentially is even getting tested for energy that's in divine union right now, in feeling the anxiety of, again, building a divine union, wanting to lean on that to a certain extent, but almost the feminine saying, I don't want to lean on that too much. This is why we see that feminine energy is keeping a lot of this work internalized right now, because this is almost a feminine energy that is trying to look at divine union and say, I don't hold on to divine union as like, as like a mast in a storm. Feminine is almost saying to themselves, I want to be able to stand on my own 2 feet and utilize and make sure that they're not putting too much pressure on the partnership itself. Masculine, you may literally be seeing this on the part of the feminine right now if you're in divine union and partnership. You could even be seeing right now a resistance point of the feminine not necessarily wanting to open up and express to you everything that they're navigating internally or externally right now, specifically because you potentially could see the fact that this is feminine energy, almost intuiting that this is a feminine energy that does not like to put their burdens at the feet of others. This isn't a feminine energy that is running around looking for someone to slay a dragon for them. This is a feminine energy that would rather just kind of deal with what they need to deal with internally or externally themselves. Masculine energy in this modality right now, this is almost this moment that could potentially feel frustrating for you in your modality, because this is almost a moment, the masculine's being like, that's what I'm here for. Like this is masculine being like, I'm okay with that role. Like this could almost be that point of like argumentation that could potentially happen that could be a little bit funny right now, because this is almost like a masculine like sitting there with like a sword and being like, what's the point of me having this sword if I can't like utilize it to like slay a dragon? And feminine being like, no, I don't need you to do that, right? It's almost like creating that kind of energy right now. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union and partnership right now, what we're effectively identifying and recognizing is this moment wherein we are seeing that, again, the union itself, and this is why we actually see right now that a lot of this energy is just being closed out, like cycles are being closed out right now. Because the priority right now for the energy coming into divine union is trying to protect the union. It's trying to create this. This is almost like building this like sense, and this is why it feels like it's so fastidious right now. It's almost giving that energy right now of like something that feels like it is in incubation. It's almost like holding on to something that you realize is like starting to grow in that way and trying to be as careful with it as possible. And a lot of this potentially has to do with some outside circumstances and situations that may feel like in a way, and this is why we see that this is now becoming that energy of divine union. It's changing your perception on things right now, because it's almost like looking like what happens when you're trying to protect something. When you're trying to protect something, suddenly everything around it feels like it's a threat, right? Like when you're trying to hold on to like an egg and you're like trying to walk through something, it's like your attention isn't on anything else around you. It's just trying to hold on to the egg to a certain extent. And for the energy coming into divine union right now, that's where we see a lot of this fastidiousness coming through. It's almost like the masculine and feminine energy being like and I have to stress right now, making sure that some of this anxiety doesn't bleed out into causing points of fracture right now in the partnership is really important. Because again, it's almost creating that sense of anxiety so much of two people that care about something so much that you might end up breaking it because you're holding on to it too tight, right? It's literally that moment that we're seeing like two energies holding something so tightly that they're like almost worried that like you're going to like, potentially damage it, but specifically because of the amount of pressure that you're feeling. So it's almost a moment right now for the energy trying to come into divine union of trying to find that like perfect grip, if you will, on like how something important matters versus how lightly you want to hold it to allow for a bit of that flow state to occur. Masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, this is effectively that moment that we are seeing that is building that sense of clarity. Again, feminine is looking at these points of closure. This is how feminine is going forward at this time. It is not the fact that feminine did not have some heart space in the past. Feminine is closing those cycles, but again, reaffirming to themselves that whatever they're closing, it is not from a lack of care. I'm going to say it again. Feminine is not moving forward due to a lack of love. This is a feminine energy that is moving forward because they don't feel like what they are leaving was reciprocal, wasn't balanced. It wasn't a divine union. It wasn't an equal give and take. And this is a feminine that, again, is feeling the pull back to something. And this is why we see that the feminine is trying to reaffirm to themselves all the spaces and places where the feminine did not feel like they could be their most vulnerable expression of self because the situations did not create a reciprocal environment that felt safe enough for them to do so. Masculine energy, if in separation right now, this is either a moment that, again, this is that understanding, this revelation, this clarity coming in on why something did not work. Again, everything that's happened over the last few days in relation to a lot of the information coming to masculine and separation right now is giving you optics on something that you didn't necessarily see from that perception before. And this is, again, either masculine going into one or two different modalities. This is masculine wanting to go back to fix something, recognizing, getting it now, understanding what created the fracture point in the process, how something was imbalanced, why the feminine energy never fully opened up to them because it didn't feel like it was equal. But now with that point of understanding, you now feel like you have what you need to come back and create that point of wanting to fix it. Or this is masculine that's trying to decide to take that lesson and go forward, to utilize this as a point of closure or correction. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Pentacles in combination with our Chariot. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Ten of Cups. Now, what are we seeing right now for masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union and partnership right now? Masculine energy, this is going to be some of that point of fastidiousness that we're seeing. And where is this fastidiousness coming from? And we're seeing this now happening on the part of both the energy that is in divine union. The energy that's in divine union and the energy that is moving into divine union are effectively now pretty much the same energy to a certain extent. Because what we're effectively identifying at this time is, again, what is happening here? This is masculine energy that sees a feminine energy that's having those points of trepidation, having those points of uncertainty. Is masculine being triggered by seeing the feminine in this modality? No. This is a masculine that realizes that they're not taking that feminine energy's ability not to feel open personally. Masculine saying, if the feminine isn't feeling open to being their most authentic expression of self, that's something I need to fix. That's something that can be fixed. Masculine is taking a very practical opinion on this and saying, tell me, literally masculine, like leaning in saying, please tell me what is putting you in that modality. If it's something I'm doing, I'm going to fix it. If it's something someone else is doing, I'm going to fix it. Because the masculine is focusing right now on making sure that the feminine energy is in that point of being able to feel like they can be their most vulnerable expressive version of self. Because masculine is effectively saying that their future depends on feminine being in that vibration. Masculine's like literally like giving this vibration right now. And I don't even mean this like in a way that feels like, again, engendered, because bear in mind that this is not like based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. This is literally like masculine energy being like happy wife, happy life, happy wife, happy life, happy wife, happy life. This is masculine being like, I need to do this, but not just doing it to cater. And this is the important thing. This isn't a masculine energy that is doing something right now to cater to a feminine. This is a masculine feeling something about the feminine, emotionally feeling that this is a feminine that isn't being as open to them and wanting to fix that and saying, explain to me what's happening here. Show me what this is. Show me what's got you in this vibration so that I can fix it. Feminine is literally doing the opposite, which is that, and this is where we see that this could be a bit of the problem that's happening right now for the energy of divine union, trying to come into divine union right now, or energy that's moving into that vibration, is feminine being like, I'm not going to say a darn thing. Feminine is doing the exact opposite right now, which could be a bit of that problem area, because feminine is saying the opposite. Feminine is saying, I don't want to mess anything up. Feminine saying, I don't want to tell you how I'm feeling. I don't want to express my anxieties and doubts. I just want to focus on what's going well. Don't worry about me. And masculine's literally looking at feminine being like, I worry about you. You have to tell me. And feminine being like, no, I don't want to tell you. Feminine is worried that expressing their own needs is going to create that sense of imbalance on what they're trying to move towards right now. So this could be a little bit of a problem area and could be a little frustrating right now for the energy that is experiencing this, even in divine union and partnership right now, okay? So feminine, you may be have to work a little bit right now on coming into that state or space of being open and remembering that, again, if you don't express a need, it can't get fixed. Just remember that right now, feminine, because I feel like even now for the energy in divine union, that may be a little bit of a problem area, okay? Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union or partnership, what we are effectively identifying and recognizing is a moment that, again, it is that point of fastidiousness that is happening right now in the energy of the divine union and partnership. And masculine, you may be paying a lot of attention right now. And again, one of the anxiety points here is masculine is feeling the anxiety of the feminine's own trepidation in relation to what they're trying to build right now. I have to stress right now Masculine energy, if you are seeing a feminine in this modality right now and you're trying to move into divine union with them, it is most likely not due to a feminine that does not desire to move forward towards that in that capacity. This is a feminine that is almost moving very cautiously because they're worried about being hurt. They're worried about being too vulnerable. They're worried that in a way, again, we're seeing that energy of a feminine being worried that like the rug's going to get pulled out from under them right now. And this could, again, lead to some feelings of fracturing here. But for the masculine energy that's moving in the capacity or the direction of the divine union, this is, again, almost going to result in not taking it personally in seeing the feminine in this modality, but almost moving into this sense of curiosity. Utilizing that sense of curiosity to say, can you explain to me where you're concerned? Can you explain to me why you're concerned? Not taking those points of concern as a point of egoic offense or utilizing that as a point of rupture, but instead utilizing that as a way to fortify what you are creating with them at this time. Masculine and feminine that are in separation, this is effectively what we see the feminine is utilizing right now to move them in that direction. This is a feminine energy right now that is effectively saying to some way, shape, or form, affirming to themselves and reminding themselves that to be in a situation or circumstance that actually feels stable, working on their manifestation goals, it needs to be a space or place that accepts them. It needs to be a space or place that allows them to be their most vulnerable expression of self. And we're effectively seeing here that this is a feminine that's reminding themselves about anything that they're moving forward and backwards, anything behind them that didn't create that opportunity of acceptance on the feminine being their most authentic expression of self. Well, that's certainly not where that lies. That's certainly not where they're going to find it. That's a feminine reaffirming that they can find that moving forward. And that's why we see that the feminine is really grounding right now in what feels tangible and what feels real and moving towards that manifestation goal. Masculine, again, this is masculine in separation, having focused on that manifestation goal. This is masculine focusing on what it is that they truly want right now. This is them knowing what they want. And again, the only problem with masculine right now is now, again, because you spent the last few days like focusing on that, it's getting the energy to fill the role. It's getting the energy to fill the role. Masculine and energy in separation right now, this is a moment. The masculine is, again, this is kind of building this sense right now of, again, either conviction of masculine to move in this direction going forward, to do everything you can to start to cultivate what you're aspiring for yourself right now. But again, just feeling to a certain extent that there is something missing here. And again, either looking forward to find it, hoping to find someone to fill that role for you, or this is masculine going back to get that energy. Going back and finding and recognizing what you need to do to go back to a feminine energy to bring them into this sense of understanding in terms of you identifying and saying, I know what I want now. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Three of Pentacles in combination with our Chariot. May I please have one card to clarify? Eight of Wands in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy that are in divine union and partnership. What did I just say the problem was? What did I just say the problem was? What is happening right now in the divine union that's causing this like point as I drop the star card? That's causing that point of friction. It's masculine. It's just a reinterpretation of what I just said. Masculine literally saying, I cannot fix something if you don't tell me what's wrong. This is literally the energy of masculine in separation being like, if you don't tell me, I can't fix it. If you don't tell me, I can't do anything about it. If you don't talk to me about it, then there's something here that we can't, this is literally the masculine trying to amplify to the feminine and saying, you need to tell me. You need to express these things. You can't bottle it up. You can't do this on your own. You need to be able to reach out to me in this way. We see that even for the energy right now of divine union and partnership, there's this moment of masculine trying to like goad this out of the feminine to a certain extent, because this is, again, a feminine energy that's almost worried about expressing their own anxieties and needs is going to somehow destabilize things. And masculine's almost trying to say to feminine right now, if in divine union and partnership, it's the opposite. It's when you don't express these things that we're going to have a problem in paradise. You need to tell me what's going on. Masculine and feminine right now that are moving into divine union and partnership. This is again that moment that masculine, you may be understanding why the feminine energy right now is going through this state or space of trepidation, because what we're effectively identifying at this time is a masculine and feminine. If moving into divine union right now, there may be a lot of things that you're just dropping. There may be a lot of communication that's just like reaching an endpoint right now. But again, that endpoint that's reaching right now, it doesn't feel like a negative so much. It feels more like a plot, like a positive. Because what we're effectively identifying at this time for the masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union right now is you don't feel bad about anything you're letting go of, because you feel like you focused on the direction that you're moving into right now. You're recognizing that space or state. You're feeling, again, you are where you want to be. And further, you're making plans on where you want to go in it. And we see here that for the energy in this modality right now, that is that concentration point that's letting a lot of things fall to the wayside right now. Feminine energy in separation. This is why the feminine energy is reaffirming no communication or contact with anyone that isn't coming into a space or place of creating something that feels balanced and accountable for the feminine, because feminine is concentrating on what it is that they truly want right now. They're focusing on the tangibles. They're focusing on a point of stability, and they're utilizing that to drive themselves forward. They're focusing on what they can adjust and account for that feels present, that feels real. They're not creating false narratives by trying to communicate with energy that can't necessarily even be bothered to communicate back or to build that type of connective tissue. This is feminine energy almost reaffirming that their job is not to continually try to propel a connection with something that doesn't feel like it's going to be reciprocal. The feminine just needs to observe when that's happening and utilize that as a practical point moving forward. Feminine's also getting a lot of support from the energy around them that is further building that network for them to recognize. Again, feminine's not doing this in a vacuum right now. Feminine feels like they've got a lot of energy around them right now that's affirming and fortifying their choice. Masculine energy in separation right now, we see that this is that moment that again is feeling like more of a challenging space right now, because you have focused right now on what your commitment is. You know, you've got that sense of resolve right now. You know what it is you want. The question right now is whether that this is a correction point, going backwards to amend for something, going backwards to fix for something right now, to fix that point now that you know what it is that you aspire and desire, or whether you're taking that forward, whether you're just utilizing that as that point of recognition as you proceed forward from this point. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Chariot in combination with our Hermit in its transverse. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our Six of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership right now. Again, what we are observing is a point. Masculine and feminine in divine union and partnership are working on supporting one another through situations and circumstances that may be feeling like they're creating spaces or places of challenge. Masculine and feminine are again almost utilizing that sense of being very scrupulous right now. This is going to feel very, very fastidious right now if you're in divine union and partnership. Again, almost looking right now in spaces and places that you can create that sense of easement. For masculine specifically, again, this is almost trying to get to the heart of some matters. This is really kind of trying to move into that space or place of looking at the feminine and saying, how can I alleviate your doubts? How can I alleviate your fears? Masculine's like committing themselves very much in this modality right now. Feminine is trying to do this internally right now. Feminine is trying to do all of this within themselves because they're feeling that anxiety point of trying to release that burden of grief in themselves right now so that they can continue forward in the direction that they feel is best for them at this time, moving through the divine union vibration. Masculine and feminine that are moving towards divine union, this is letting go of things right now and being okay leaving them where they are. There could be feelings like a lot of things being left unfinished to a certain extent because we're effectively seeing that this is masculine and feminine not even needing to be bothered right now with needing to build that sense of closure. It's like, it's almost that point of even feeling like you don't need to build that closure point. You just need to move forward at this time. You found what it is that you're seeking. The divine union has formed and it's letting you kind of just like let some things like leaving some work unfinished, if you will. Just kind of leaving it where it is because you've secured on what it is that you desire with each other going forward. This is effectively the divine union having occurred. This is that point that's built, that's created that sense that you are moving forward in that destination, and everything else around you is just kind of being left unfinished to a certain extent, because it's no longer grabbing any of your gravitas or attention. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 2 of Cups in its reversal and our 10 of Cups in its upright. Masculine and feminine that are in divine union and partnership. Again, navigating any of these hurdles to continue forward in that vein. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with our 3 of Wands in its reversal. The problem here, what is the problem that we are effectively seeing right now for the energy in divine union and partnership is, again, masculine potentially feeling a point of frustration, of feminine not feeling like they're opening up. They're not as vulnerable as they would effectively desire them to be at this time. Masculine could even be inquiring to the feminine and saying, what has you in this modality? What has you in this vibration? What is this here that is creating this space or place that you have so much of your guard up here? What is creating that moment that you feel that overprotection on? Feminine doesn't effectively want to discuss or reveal those things, because feminine is, again, doing a lot of that internal work right now, trying to help themselves so that they feel like they don't want to bring their burdens to bear on the partnership itself. The problem here is, again, potentially some point of conflict happening right now in masculine, feeling potentially like this is a feminine that isn't opening up or revealing things to them. And this could almost create this perfect, ironic, ridiculous situation of a masculine feeling like the partnership is at risk because the feminine isn't opening up, and feminine literally not wanting to open up about their own feelings because they're worried about adding unnecessary burden on someone else that feels like it is an internal problem. So making sure that there is that point of clarity right now and communication is going to be very important right now as you go forward, to make sure that there isn't some kind of miscommunication here. And how are you going to do that? You're going to focus on the long-term manifestation goal. You're going to focus on the long-term manifestation goal. Same thing right now for the energy and divine coming into divine union. Same exact thing. The interesting thing, though, again, for the divine union energy is this is that more of that point that you found your happiness. You found that point. You found that point of bliss right now. The divine union is that space or place that's creating that moment of, again, not needing anything, leaving things unspoken, leaving things unsaid, potentially even, again, letting go of some connections right now, because, again, it's just that fact of feeling like it's no longer any importance. This is you just moving up into that vibration of divine union and leaving a lot of things behind in its wake, because you feel like you're already there. You feel like you found what it is that you're looking for. It's like everything else can just kind of vanish or disappear on the wayside. Continuing, masculine and feminine that are in separation right now, the feminine in separation, this is why we see that the feminine energy in separation, even if there's some circumstances or situations from the past that are rising up right now that feel like they are triggering or challenging to the feminine energy, this is how the feminine is effectively affirming to themselves going forward. What's feminine energy doing right now? Feminine energy is focusing on their manifestation goal. Feminine energy right now is focusing on their manifestation goal and recommitting and utilizing the manifestation goal as a point of comparison. Looking at the situations from the past right now and saying, it's not about the connection to energy. It's not about whether there is that connection. It is the question of actually asking themselves, can they see that imbalanced connection in the future manifestation that they actually aspire and desire to? And the feminine is almost affirming themselves and saying, if this energy isn't in union, how can I bring an energy in union into the manifestation of the desired life that I have if we're not in divine union? Because that's almost like the first ticker on the divine, on the wish list. And feminine literally looking and saying, there's an imbalanced partnership. I'm moving away from that. My desire is to be in balance. And that's almost the feminine almost affirming and saying, if the energy can't come towards them in a state or space of balance or accountability, this is feminine almost forcing themselves into that active release by focusing on the manifestation goal. Masculine energy in separation right now, this is that moment that you have focused on your manifestation goal. And I have to say, it may have changed over the last few days. There's been a lot of shifting of masculine energy over the last few days, with the big question coming forward from a lot of different directions of masculine energy and separation right now that is focused on that $1 million question. What is it that you want? Masculine, you've been spending the last few days, if in separation right now, really focusing on what the answer to that question is, affirming your own sense of commitment to it. And what we're effectively seeing at this time for masculine energy in that modality right now is masculine. This is that moment of observing what you either need to amend or correct for, or how you're going to move forward at this time. Masculine, you are also potentially looking right now at some partnerships that feel like they're not necessarily in that point of balance. You're potentially even looking right now, again, around spaces or places where there isn't communication, and you are effectively asking yourself, this is feeling like a lot for the masculine energy in this modality right now, that question of forward or backward. This is the masculine energy either coming into a state or space of observing and saying that one wants to go back to correct for an imbalance, to bring it into the future, recognizing what you need to do to be able to come into divine union at this time, or having that point of letting that past be the past as you move forward, utilizing this manifestation goal. And a lot of this is potentially entering the realms of communication right now. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Cups in combination with our 8 of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, we got to be careful today, guys. We've got our 5 of Pentacles rising up today. I got to stress, a lot of triggering energy today. I don't want to hear anybody responding to an abandonment wound trigger today. Do you hear me? I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it. I don't want any of it. Okay? Right now, I got to stress, for all energies at play, there are abandonment wounds. There are triggers that are rising to the surface right now. The important thing to assess right now is what you do at a point that you feel like you are triggered. Masculine and feminine energy, we are seeing effectively even in divine union right now. Both of you are navigating situations and circumstances that feel somewhat triggering. Masculine, seeing the feminine energy moving in this vibration where you don't feel like they're being fully open to you may be the thing that's triggering you. Feminine is feeling triggered internally right now, and it's making them also feel like they don't want to open up to a certain extent for fear of, again, having that point of not being able to openly express themselves, for fear of some kind of sense of damaging things and being their most authentic expression of self. Both energies right now need to focus on their manifestation goal and need to also think about, again, positive communication through this right now, making sure that you are utilizing this as a point of communication and not effectively one that creates a point of silence between you at this moment. The deeper question that is happening today, the challenge point for all energies at play, is going to be making sure what you're communicating is coming from working towards your manifestation goal and not building upon the fear or anxiety that is being triggered in the meantime. Not letting yourself get reactive, but letting that intention, that higher purpose, guide your communication right now. I'm saying this to all energy at play. This is Mercury retrograde shining its head before it even shows up right now. So I really want you to think about what you're saying right now, especially if you are feeling triggered. Be very intentional with what you are aspiring for, not what you are fearing. I'm going to literally say that's like what's happening right now for all of the energies at play. Feminine is utilizing that right now to move forward. Masculine is utilizing that right now as well. All energies at play need to be very conscientious of that. Remember, I said this because I swear if we have a bad reading tomorrow because of this, I am going to be very upset. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 8 of Swords in its reversal in combination with our 6 of Swords in its reversal. Okay? May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, guys, listen, this is giving a lot of this energy right now of, again, situations, hurdles right now, having some difficulty through some transformative moments, okay? Masculine and feminine if in divine union and partnership right now, this is exactly what I mean. It's not about what is effectively occurring that's rising up from the past right now, either metaphysically or tangibly. It's more about what you're putting your care, effort, energy, and attention to right now. It is creating that point of shift that we're effectively seeing at this time. For masculine and feminine in divine union or moving into divine union, this is that point of observation. And again, releasing, there's an opportunity here to release grief, to release some of that. But again, it is hitting a little bit of that conflict point because it's a lot of setbacks and hurdles that are rising to the surface right now that are making it feel like things aren't moving at the pace that you would effectively desire. It is feeling that point of anxiety. It's like the trigger is the slowing down. It's the trigger of, again, not feeling the communication coming through as robustly as you want, feeling some of these setbacks or hurdles that are happening right now, being able to navigate these right now and not let them kind of overwhelm you, but almost like just allow this to be like that easement point is going to help at this time, as opposed to letting yourself get caught on what feels like it is in a point of stasis or what doesn't feel like it's effectively moving at the speed or at the amplification that you would effectively desire at this time. Masculine and feminine, again, trying to come into partnership at this moment. This is that anxiety of, again, making sure that you're not holding something so tightly that you accidentally damage it. Because we see here that there's a lot of that anxiety of a desire of wanting to move forward in the same direction. But the fear is rising up right now in the point of again, having this be a bit of a trust exercise, having this be one of those moments of having to put that trust in each other at this time is effectively all the difference between whether this is going to feel like it's locking up from a point of anxiety and lack of trust, or if it's going to be a moment of allowing that trust to come in, allowing this to be a point and space of easement. That's what's going to help in this modality. Feminine is almost reaffirming right now, reaffirming what they're effectively moving away from. Feminine energy is almost, again, looking at things with the tangible optics. If there isn't any communication, then feminine is effectively saying to themselves, that's proof that something hasn't changed. If the energy isn't accountable, if the energy isn't trying to enact change, feminine's almost affirming to themselves, that's proof that something hasn't changed. And that is almost enough of confirmation that feminine needs right now to move forward on their own direction and just let this be a grief release process. For masculine energy, in separation right now, this is effectively that moment that we are identifying and articulating that feels like you are caught in what could be articulated as a limbo point. It could be feeling that frustration that things are not moving at the speed that you would effectively desire at this time. And we see that for masculine, this is either moving forward right now or moving backwards. This is either, again, trying to come into the space of fixing something that there hasn't been a lot of communication on, or letting this be a point of releasing grief going forward as you try to proceed forward, recognizing what was causing the difficulty point in the past. Continuing to get clarification on these cards between our Three of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Five of Pentacles. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. Does this card look familiar? It should look familiar because we had this over the last week. Again, intentionality is really key right now. One of the things that we're effectively identifying and recognizing at this moment is coming through right now in this space or place of identifying, taking new approaches to difficult situations. Why do you think we have these retrograde periods? What do you think it's for? Taking new approaches to difficult situations. Masculine and feminine right now in divine union and partnership. It's not the fact that there aren't triggers here. It is making sure that you are not letting yourself react and respond to the trigger in a way that feels like it is limiting you. It is using a lot of intentionality right now to make sure that you are moving with intention. This is going to be something that, again, is a bit easier if you're in divine union, but making sure that you don't trigger each other in the process is very important, because masculine could be feeling that point of frustration of a feminine not articulating on what they need. Feminine, this could be a moment that you're recognizing your own desire not to necessarily cause problems may be causing the problem because you don't want to communicate, which is the problem. That is the trigger that's being hit right now. The abandonment wound. Feminine feeling a fear of abandonment by expressing a need. Masculine feeling an abandonment wound from a feminine not expressing a need. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. We are effectively identifying and seeing here that this is that moment of observation and recognizing right now something that feels, again, you're holding something so preciously, you want something so badly, equally, that like you're having that moment of potentially damaging it inadvertently because the fear is rising up here. The fear, anxiety of something that is forming, not forming, is potentially causing a little bit of that potential fracture point. So being able to utilize this, and again, not let yourself get triggered from that anxiety, but utilizing that as a point of confirming and building that clarity on the future is what's going to help navigate forward from this point. Feminine energy, if in separation, this is feminine energy that is literally feeling right now. This could be a feminine energy that if there isn't a lack of communication, this is feminine energy walking away from something with a point of confirmation of a masculine that they feel potentially maybe trying to literally trigger an abandonment wound from a lack of communication. This is a feminine energy that may potentially see that there's a masculine energy that they feel is employing a lack of communication right now, specifically to create that sense of abandonment wound. Feminine recognizing that to a certain extent is what is amplifying to the feminine, not moving backwards around things that aren't building that point of accountability or communication, but letting that be a point of leveraging and going forwards and reminding themselves that they're not going backwards to build a communication channel, that that's something that you just find them where they are if it is ready. And that is feminine continuing forward on their own journey right now, if in separation. Masculine energy, if in separation right now, effectively, this is that moment that, again, you are identifying spaces or places where you may not necessarily have been so communicative. This is a moment that, again, masculine, you are feeling this moment where you are addressing a point that you potentially see that you are reacting from an abandonment wound. Masculine, something about the last few days has shown you the blind spot in your own abandonment wound. How something that you may not necessarily have recognized was being seen and experienced. This is masculine seeing the blind spot or moving away from it. Masculine recognizing this abandonment wound, this trigger in yourself, is making you have to have a point of accommodation in your own behavior. The question is this going to be a moment where you're recognizing that and communicating that you've seen this in yourself right now and you're able to move forward in a new start in something from the past? Or if you're taking this forward, going forward, recognizing that now you understand why something didn't work, and seeing this abandonment wound is now something that you can be more cognizant of as you go forward here. But something about this abandonment wound is very hard, because something about the abandonment wound is almost amplifying your own ability to move away from situations or circumstances when they get too difficult. Continuing to get clarification on this right now between our Five of Pentacles in combination with our Death card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification. We love this. We've got here our Hangman in its reversal. Masculine and feminine right now in divine union and partnership. This is that moment of observation that we're effectively seeing. For the energy in divine union and partnership right now, it is effectively navigating the abandonment wound. How are you navigating the abandonment wound? You're observing it. You're observing it. You're not letting yourself react from it. You're potentially observing it, and you are utilizing this as a moment of recognizing when it shows itself, when it reveals itself, recognizing those tendencies within you. And again, this is what's beautiful about it, is when those abandonment wounds are rising to the surface right now, are masculine and feminine in divine union reacting to them? No. They're stopping them dead in their tracks. They're trying to stop them dead in their tracks. They're trying to call a halt sooner rather than later. And again, not letting yourself operate in that space is almost making things easier going forward. But it is this moment that may feel a little difficult, because you may be having to articulate to another person basically what that blind spot is that you're seeing that needs to be addressed. Masculine and feminine that are trying to come into divine union right now, this is that point of observation that we're effectively seeing at this time. And for the energy that's trying to come into divine union right now, There is potentially this moment that we see could make or break a situation or circumstance right now. But again, we see here that for a lot of the masculine and feminine energy that's in this modality right now, there could be a feeling of letting go of a lot of stuff, because it's almost like this moment right now where there's so much anxiety about the partnership forming that there's this moment that everything looks like it's a risk. Everything looks like it might be harmful to the partnership. And this is almost like pushing it all aside, wanting to just be free of it to avoid anything potentially harming the divine union that's forming. Continuing to get clarification on this, for the feminine energy that's in separation right now, this is the feminine energy potentially looking at things from a different perspective. If this is a feminine energy that feels like they haven't gotten closure on something, this is a feminine energy that feels like that lack of closure is intentional. This is almost a feminine energy feeling like anything that hasn't created that sense of closure is doing so specifically to try to trigger an abandonment wound in the feminine. And that's why feminine's building that sense of closure for themselves right now, because this is a feminine saying that they refuse to operate in a state or place where they feel like they're constantly triggered due to a lack of closure. While masculine in this modality right now, what we're effectively seeing is, again, for masculine energy right now, this is that moment that you have seen a blind spot within yourself. Something has been brought to your own attention, your own triggers, your own habits. And if in separation right now, this is that moment for masculine that recognizing something in yourself right now is also helping you see something that was limiting you from being able to transform, to change into what you would expectedly desire as it relates to your manifestation goals at this time. And it's this observation of the self that is feeling like a bit of a release. It's feeling like a bit of an easement. It's almost creating that sense of easement even at this moment, because again, it is helping free yourself from a situation or circumstance that you may have felt confused or trapped upon. This is something that you now see, something that you can change within the self that is going to allow for easement going forward. Final card for today's spread, between our Fool card in its reversal in combination with our Hangman in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with the Moon card in its reversal. And we love to see this card in its reversal because we saw this card in its upright over the last few days. What am I telling you is going to help the energy right now that's in divine union and partnership? Clarity, honesty, communication. Having that point right now of optics, opening up in that way, expressing how you're feeling. Feminine is working through this right now. Feminine does not feel like they are in a space or place that they feel like they can be their most vulnerable expression of self. This is something that feminine is trying to teach themselves is safe to do right now, even in the energy of divine union and partnership. Feminine is effectively feeling, again, now masculine's almost trying to teach the feminine right now, in divine union, it is safe to speak your truth. It is safe to be honest. It is safe to be vulnerable. Masculine, you may be seeing this as well on the part of the feminine and trying to amplify and express to them, it is okay. This is not something that is going to create a hurdle between us. It is something that will only help us. Masculine and feminine that are moving into divine union right now, this is that moment of clarity that's coming into circumstances and situations, because what we're effectively seeing is that point of understanding what is being created between you both right now is bringing a lot of clarity to things. It's helping you focus on what is important right now and letting go of anything else that doesn't feel like it is. It's almost just coming to the truth of it and realizing that there are just some things that no longer captivate or gravitate your own attention because your own intention and your own priorities have shifted. Feminine right now in separation, this is that moment that we're effectively identifying that is leading the feminine right now to accept the harsh reality of situations. This is feminine not wanting to live in some kind of world of illusion in terms of what they feel isn't tangibly there, but instead really focusing on what they are tangibly trying to bring towards themselves at this time by seeing what feels like it is expressing themselves in a tangible way. And this is a feminine energy saying, like, again, if someone wants to bring their clarity, the feminine is leaving themselves open to it, but feminine isn't going to maintain or stay in a space or place where they're holding on to that desire for clarity if it's not being brought forward. Feminine's just taking that point of reality and clarity to help them guide forward on their path. And in a way, that is feeling like a point of release that's helping them with anything that they may have felt like they were holding on to prior to this point. Masculine in separation right now, what we are effectively seeing is, again, a moment or an opportunity that you are identifying wherein we see that you have seen some blind spots that you did not see in yourself. That deeper truth, that deeper self-understanding is now what's empowering you going forward. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now. 9 of Wands in its upright. There's a lot of this feeling of protectiveness right now. A lot, again, making sure that you don't get triggered is going to be really important. Everyone is feeling very, very hypersensitive today. And when we have energy like this, it can be very easy to misinterpret something that is said and take it as a point of offense. Recognizing, having that sense of intentionality, realizing that things are not happening to you, they're happening around you, employing that sense of sensitivity and empathy is what is really going to be important as you proceed forward from this point. That is our daily collective read for today. I'd like to thank you guys so much for being here and receiving these messages. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber ID at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never PM you. I will never DM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. I want to thank you guys so much for being here with me today and sharing with me in these messages. And we will do this again